Third and final hour of Cruise Control. We are live at the Union Pizzeria and Sports Bar in the Holiday Inn, downtown Omaha, Nebraska. And Scott, Tom Van Hoy, good to have you with us, and we're going to be welcoming in another guest here in just a moment. Well, as we continue in our routine, every other day we bring in the hitting coach of the Tigers and the pitching coach of the Tigers. And right now, Dan Pepicelli, Clemson pitching coach, kind enough to join us here on the program again. Clemson finally gets a legitimate, actual, planned day off in this tournament, Pep, after taking 3 days to play 2 games and preparing to play for a 4th day.
Yeah, that was big for us. I mean, you know, you just have to adjust to what you're getting thrown at you, and it just seems like the last 3 days everything's been thrown at us. It's like you and I were laughing off the air. This is the way we do it, you know.
Kind of fits the pattern of the season. Nothing's easy. And
yeah, definitely.
In the completion of the game yesterday, you start off with Will Lamb on the mound, and he was at times dominant and at times struggled with his command pretty much start to finish. His ball-to-strike ratio, I know, was not nearly what you would like it to be. Gave up the 2 solo home runs, and then other times was unhittable. Struck out 5 guys, I think.
Yeah, I guess that's the part of it that had me frustrated, was that was really, if you followed what we did the whole postseason, it went, you know, we've been trying to go 0-1 an awful lot in the offseason. In the postseason, that's really been a focus for us. And Will has as good a stuff as anybody and can really challenge like that, and just couldn't get us there. It just seemed like we spent a lot of time 2-0. A lot of time 2-0, a lot of time 2-0. And, you know, he's battling. He's letting it fly. There certainly wasn't a desire issue. Just sometimes you want it so much, you just get a little ahead of yourself. And I think that's what we saw at Will last
Did you
night.
think, though, that even though he got behind the count, I thought he was pretty tough at trying to get back into the count, and as Dan said, ended up with 5 strikeouts. So I think it could have got away from him, but I think he reeled it in a little bit.
He could make, you know, he kept making that one pitch that would bail him out, take you to the brink of it, and then bring you back, which, you know, as a pitching coach in the dugout wasn't exactly the best way to go through it. But hey, you know, if you can finish the deal like you seem to do each inning, you know, that's what it's about.
Meanwhile, the pitching coach's stomach is churning in the dugout because you know that's living dangerously. You cannot continue to pitch behind and be successful, and he did end up giving up the 2 solo home runs. So at what point are you saying, okay, we're going to give him this much rope and then we're going to pull the rug out from under him, so to speak?
You know what we did is we had Dom ready a little bit earlier than when we used him. And it just happened to be that when it looked like Will got in a little trouble later, we had a string of lefties coming up. And so we just said, well, let's stick with him through these lefties and see how he did. And he seemed to get through it, and then he got stuck quick. And as we saw with Florida State TCU last night, you're a blast away from being behind. And the wind blowing straight out to right, balls carrying that way, lefties. So, you know, it just got to the point where we said, okay, he had clearly gotten in trouble, and it's time to go to Dom.
Did you know at that point you were going to go to Dominic Leone rather than Alex Frederick? That was the
definitely.
plan.
Versus the lefty,
Okay,
versus the lefty. It's a totally different look. Well, what Dom does is very opposite from what Freddie does.
Okay.
And if you look at Freddie's numbers versus the lefties, he had struggled leading up to this tournament. Now, he's had to get some big lefties out when we've had him in games, but Dom matches up pretty well versus a lefty. So, and he did yesterday. I mean, that's really what he did.
Well, and the one thing that you don't want to do, especially with the wind howling like it was, you don't want to throw something off speed that's going to speed up a bat, let him get it up into that jet stream and blow out of there. And even though he ended up walking, Seitzer, it was a great battle with him, but everything was hard away. Exactly. If he was going to beat you, he was going to beat you the opposite way.
Exactly. I mean, what you're saying is exactly it. You know, we wanted to stay out of that jet stream to right field, and we certainly didn't want a ball running back into the lefty because that's a pull pitch. So, you know, just the matchup with Freddie there, we just thought, okay, let's use Dom. Let's use some of that fastball running off the plate to the lefty And if they're going to beat us, they're going to have to beat us into the wind.
Pretty tough, though. Even he gave up the walk in the battle with Seitzer. He had bases loaded. And
Yeah.
you're in a key situation. Young guy, he just come into the ball game and walk somebody. And for him to get out the pinch hitter was a big one for you.
You know, he's young in years in college, but he's been in a lot of battles now. If you kind of look at Dom's resume this year, how many times have we said he's had to get a big out? And you know, I loved his sequence versus Seitzer. You know, obviously I'm a pitching coach, so I believe that 2-2 pitch was a great pitch.
So did we.
Great two-seam fastball, called strike 3. We should be out of the inning. All right, it didn't happen, but you didn't see a hiccup in Dom at all. I thought he was locked right back in, so there was no question he was the right guy to go after.
Yeah, and he has gotten some big outs in his young career, but come on, this College World Series, first time on that field in that atmosphere, that circumstance. As a competitor, there had to be some butterflies.
Don't you see by now? That's the thing with this group. It just doesn't. You know, it's you can switch environments all you want. You know, we were in Auburn, and Auburn was crazy. I mean, that was a hot place to play. A lot of fans right on top of you. And this group just believes a lot in what they're doing, and they're just going to let it fly, whatever it is, and throw it up to the wall and see what sticks. And that's what he did. I mean, he just let it rip.
Is this a team composed of players, pitching staff that handles that situation pretty well? Because you just mentioned that it didn't seem to bother him too much. Now, I think it could have other pitchers and would carry over, but it didn't. Is that an indication of your pitching staff, you think?
Well, that's why Dom was in that role, because you kind of figure out their personalities as the season goes on, who can handle it maybe a little bit more than others. Who's better designed for that? Let me say it that way. And Dom's the right guy for that. And, you know, now, hey, he could very well miss with a pitch, and it could very well end up in the seats. That's not the point. The point is he handling it? Is he handling it? Is he managing the game? Is he aggressive? Is he attacking? Is he doing those things?
Not overwhelmed by the circumstance.
Exactly. And so then he's going to give you his best. His emotions aren't going to get in the way of it, and he was very good at it, and that's why I had a lot of confidence in him. We had a lot of confidence in him at that point.
The other thing we noticed in the ninth inning after Freddie's in there, and he gave up the double with one out that made it a 6-4 game, and now you've got the tying run at the plate. In the bullpen, you had Brady, but you also had Joseph Moorfield warming up, a guy who's only made 5 or 6 appearances all year, and this continues to speak to a theme that we've had running here over the course of the last week or two, is that you better be ready when your number is called, whether you have been in a lot of games or not. And it looked like you guys were confident that if you needed to go with him to get a left-handed hitter out, I mean, why else would you have him warming up?
Right. No, that's it. I mean, Joseph's a great story. I mean, he couldn't – what he was doing just wasn't working most of the year. And we were at the ACC tournament. We had a practice. And we totally did some drastic things with him mechanically, moved him way over on the rubber, dropped his arm down, did a bunch of things, and just said, hey, let's let it rip because we're a year into this with me. And, you know, the way you were doing it clearly wasn't on, you know. And, man, starts flying out of his hand, doing some things. He liked it, I liked it. We did it in an inter squad. That looked pretty good. We did it at Alabama. That looked even better. So I think, and then he did it in another inter squad and looked good. So I think, you know, he's a guy where I think we've clicked on something, and as long as he can keep his emotions in check, he's throwing the ball pretty good. It's coming out of his hand nice right now.
Yeah, that's a fine time, though, to start making changes that drastic, isn't it?
Well, you know what? Honestly, we have honest communication among the staff, and I said, hey, Joe, let's be honest. Right now, you're at the tail end of this line. That's a long line you got to get through. You know, or what are you thinking? And to his credit, he said, "Hey, whatever you want to do with me, I'm ready to see what we can do different." And it's pretty different, but it's working.
It's funny how just something like a slight change in the arm angle can make that much of a difference.
Yeah, we moved him way over too, so he had more of the plate to work with, and trying to get more arm side run with him. And man, he threw a few, and you could see his confidence. He liked it, and the ball was doing things, and he lit up and said, man, I love that, and we were on to something, and I give the kid all the credit. I mean, he just attacked it.
So you're I don't know if amateur's the right word, amateur psychologist, I guess, with some of your pitchers, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And they are with me.
Dan Pepicelli, the Clemson pitching coach, joining us on Cruise Control this morning as we continue our special College World Series editions of the program live here in Omaha at the Union Pizzeria Sports Bar, the Holiday Inn downtown.